Good morning, Wright State University, and welcome to the Wright Morning Show on WWSU. Start your day the right way with us. We will be covering current events in the news, local, national, and from Wright State. We will provide a daily dose of inspiration and positivity to lighten your day. And we will have a special feature depending on the day of the week. So grab your tea or your coffee, sit back, relax, and enjoy the Wright Morning Show.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's edition of the Wright Morning Show on WWSU 106.9 FM. It is Thursday, June 10th, 2021. We have a little bit of breaking news that we're going to get into here to start off the morning show, so we're going to get right into that, and you probably heard it at the beginning just before we began the show today. There is a drinking water warning in effect for Wright State University and Hamilton Hall. Here's an article from the Wright State Guardian Media Group on this incident. Wright State University issued a drinking water warning yesterday afternoon, asking all community members to refrain from using any water for any purpose due to possible contamination. Environmental Health and Safety released a drinking water warning via email about possible water contamination from maintenance activities for HVAC systems. The article says that there is no evidence of contamination at this time. However, Wright State did later release an update about the incident, and they said they did find evidence of contamination isolated to the buildings of Biological Sciences 1 and 2. But they said they cannot rule out the possibility that contamination exists elsewhere in the water system. So they're advising everybody on the Wright State water system, which includes everybody on Wright State's campus, Dayton campus, and the Hamilton Hall dorms, to not use the campus water. According to Greg Merkel, a specialist with environmental health and safety, this is an unusual event and has not occurred before at Wright State's campus. Merkel was first notified of the possible contamination by email yesterday morning just before noon. The possible contamination affects everyone served by the Wright State public water system. The only housing unit included in this advisory is Hamilton Hall. So anybody who is in the other dorms, you are not affected. The only campus housing that's affected is Hamilton Hall. All those affected by this advisory should not use any of Wright State's water for any purpose, effective immediately and until further notice. Individuals should use bottled water for drinking, making ice, brushing teeth, washing dishes, and preparing food. According to the email, Wright State is investigating the possible contamination and taking the steps to correct the problem. Bottled water is available at customer care in 065 Allen Hall. Offices can also request bottled water by contacting customer care at 937-775-4444. So, again, I can't repeat this enough times. Do not use Wright State's water for any purpose until further notice. This drinking water warning is still in effect. They have not released an update saying that the water is safe to drink yet, so I am under the assumption that today the warning is still in effect. So do not use campus's water. Do what I'm doing and get yourself some vending machine drinks. I mean, I know they're expensive, but better safe than sorry. Or another thing you could do is you could get yourself a 2.5 gallon of distilled water from Meyer for only a couple of dollars. I'm not going to give the exact price because I'm not allowed to do that, but it's pretty cheap over there. So yeah, get yourself some clean water. Don't use Wright State's water. We're going to move now to other local news happening around the area. Dayton Daily News says that Bellbrook City Manager is leaving for Fairborn Finance Director job. You could go to DaytonDailyNews.com for information about that. From Dayton.com, Fairborn Incubator Kitchen is reopening after the pandemic. Spark, a combination incubator kitchen and co-working space on Main Street in Fairborn, will reopen today to the public. From 5 p.m. to 7 p.m., an open house will be held at the space at 305 West Main Street in Fairborn. The space opened in 2018 but had to reduce its operations during the COVID-19 pandemic. I apologize. I'm having a little bit of glasses issues at the moment here. Let me adjust my glasses. Okay. According to the Spark Fairborn Facebook page, the space has developed a new kitchen layout, mission, connections to the community, rental agreements, workshops, and goals since March. The space is available for people who want to work in the space a few hours per week, for cooking classes, or for people who want to start their own restaurants. So we talked about Spark a little bit on yesterday's edition of the Wright Morning Show. And we really, we appreciate that the mission that the Spark Kitchen is giving the community. So Spark Kitchen is not only helping people learn how to cook, but they're helping people learn how to start restaurants. And I'm as I've said over and over again on this show, the food quality for local restaurants is much better than chained restaurants on average. So we could definitely use more restaurants run by, local people, families and neighbors, things like that. From WHIO, Fairborn schools are breaking ground on a new high school in the latest upgrade to the district. The new school will sit on Commerce Center Drive in Fairborn and will have a new stadium, sports arena, and performing arts center. The district passed a bond to build the new high school, the latest upgrade to the district. They have already built a new primary school for grades pre-K through 2 and have a new intermediate school opening in 2022 for grades 3 to 5. From WDTN, Fairborn, Xenia, and Springfield men among 8 indicted in a drug conspiracy. A federal grand jury has charged 8 people in a narcotics conspiracy involving at least 14 kilograms of fentanyl destined for resale in Clark, Greene, Hamilton, and Montgomery counties. The Department of Justice said yesterday that the indictment was returned June 8th and unsealed today. Each of the defendants is charged with conspiring to contribute more than 400 grams of fentanyl, a crime punishable by at least 10 years and up to life in prison. So this is a serious indictment. The 13-count indictment alleges that between December 2020 and June 2021, the defendants used a network of sellers in southern Ohio to distribute kilogram quantities of opioids from supply sources in Mexico and western United States. The co-conspirators allegedly used a series of properties throughout southern Ohio to process, store, and distribute controlled substances and the resulting cash proceeds. Federal prosecutors said as part of the conspiracy that one defendant used her profession as a truck driver to transport thousands of dollars in cash to sources of drug supply in Mexico and the western United States. This is a sophisticated alleged drug trafficking organization that stretched from the Mexican border to southern Ohio. We believe this group and others who were working to bring to justice are responsible for trafficking a significant amount of fentanyl into southern Ohio, said DEA Special Agent in Charge Keith Martin. Fentanyl remains a significant threat to this region. DEA and our law enforcement partners are intensifying efforts to go after those who exchange the suffering of thousands for their own personal gain. The Department of Justice said an indictment is merely an allegation and all defendants are presumed innocent unless proven guilty in a court of law. We will see how that turns out once it gets into court and once they have their trial. That is a pretty big sting there. From Dayton Daily News says that a man who accused Dayton police of misconduct is asking city leaders to act. You can read about that at Dayton Daily News. I'm on a payroll, so I cannot provide that for you. DaytonLocal.com has a list of job opportunities. So if you are looking for a local job here in the area, be sure to check that out. Here are some of those job opportunities that are available. There is a kitchen line cook position open at Frickers. There is a full-time and part-time kitchen staff positions open at Bunkers Sports Bar and Grill. The Montgomery County Summer Job Fair is looking to have people join to meet other people from companies, to meet employers from other companies and to get hired on. So definitely check out the job fair. The Black Rock Beaver Creek Bar and Grill is looking for a dishwasher. If you want to be a dishwasher. There is also the Dayton Raceway Job Fair. So another opportunity to meet employers and possibly get a job. That event is June 22nd. I do not have a date on the Montgomery County Jobs Fair, unfortunately. And so there is a lot of other jobs, but those are just a few of them that are posted on DaytonLocal.com that you can get if you're looking for a job, especially coming out of the COVID pandemic. Continuing on, Dayton Daily News says that Dayton presents keys to city to public health officials. You saved the city. You can read about that at Dayton Daily News. Former elder beerman at Fairfield Commons is becoming office space. This is from Dayton.com. Dayton Daily News reporters have been following the fate of the former retail space for years. So you can... Let's see here. The Meridian will be first-class office space in the two-story, 150,000 square foot former department store at the mall in Beaver Creek. Synergy will redevelop the building into office, laboratory, research, and development space. Construction is expected to start late this year. Elder Beerman closed in August 2018 at the mall following the bankruptcy of the parent company, the Bon-Ton. Continuing on to WDTN, one person was seriously injured after being shot while driving in Harrison Township. A person is seriously injured after they were shot while driving yesterday. The Montgomery County Sheriff's Office said deputies from the Harrison substation were called to the 5000 block of Norris Drive on a report of a shooting around 2:35 a.m. When deputies arrived, they found a male had been shot while driving in the area of North Main Street and Macy Drive and had been driven to the Norris address. The victim said he was driving south on North Main Street and in the area of the 5000 block of North Main Street when an unknown person started shooting at his car. The victim did not know where the shots came from. The victim was transported to Miami Valley Hospital with serious injuries. The incident is under investigation by the Special Investigations Unit of the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office. Talk about road rage. Ugh. It could get ugly. I would honestly like to see some bulletproof windows or something like that installed on cars because you don't know how many incidents there are, especially like myself when I ride public transit. There's been a few instances where the buses would have to drive through a crime scene involving guns. So, and that could get a little frightening because, you know, at any point in time, somebody might shoot a gun and might fire at the bus. So I think bulletproof windows is not a bad idea for cars and bus, especially public transit. Dayton Daily News continues by saying Smales Pretzel Bakery is planning to convert a food trailer into a mobile pretzel bakery. You can read about that at DaytonDailyNews.com. From Dayton.com, Masquerade, Dayton's Party of Parties, is announcing their 2021 theme. Party of Parties for a Cause, Masquerade, is back in person this year and announced Satellites and Stardust. will be the 2021 theme. The theme was released via video yesterday in a spoof of news broadcasts instead of the usual theme release party. The event will be held Saturday, October 16th at the 804 building, Monument Avenue in downtown Dayton. Masquerade, a bewitching night of music, dancing, and dazzling costumes, went viral last year due to the pandemic. Since its inception, Masquerade has raised critical funding for Equitas Health's life-saving work in the Dayton community. This year's event on October 16th will be one of the largest ever, raising money for HIV prevention and education work in the Miami Valley, event organizers said in a release. We know everyone missed the party in 2020, and we are so excited to bring that party back to Dayton this fall. Since Masquerade's inception in 2002, it has helped raise awareness and more than $1,250,000 for Equitas Health. You could get tickets for Masquerade by going to masquerage.org, and that is spelled MASQUERAGE.org. There is general admission tickets available and Red Ribbon Lounge tickets that are also available. Continuing on from WYSO, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base has loosened their COVID-19 restrictions. As of last week, the base has begun operating under Health Protection Condition Alpha. This means that masks are now optional on base for people who have been vaccinated. Officials are asking people to continue physically distancing and maintaining hygiene while on base. Base Commander Colonel Patrick Miller says the loosening of restrictions is only possible because of people following safety measures and medical advancements like vaccines. Let's see. This isn't a declaration of victory, said Miller. This is a recognition of the ground we've gained back. This is recognition of the processes that we have in place. If COVID-19 numbers continue to decline, Miller plans to terminate the public health emergency at the end of June. So that's some good news there that public entities and private entities are a lot alike are finding it safe now to start releasing some of their restrictions. And as I said before, and I'm going to say again, just remember, though, while you're out there, that getting the COVID vaccine currently is a choice. So some people are going to choose not to get vaccinated. So be mindful of that. And also be mindful that some people are going to be unwilling to show you their vaccination card or to disclose whether or not they've been vaccinated. And I don't anticipate that the COVID vaccine is going to become a requirement for institutions until the vaccine gets general approval from the FDA, because currently it only has emergency approval. I know Pfizer right now is working on getting emergency approval for infants and children, hopefully by September or October. So they're doing some studies right now in infants and children to see the effects of the vaccine on them. So that's something to look forward to. Children under 12 may be able to get the vaccine here in just a few months. A new restaurant is now open at the Green, serving American bistro food, according to Dayton Daily News. You could read more about that at DaytonDailyNews.com. We've talked about the air show, I believe, once before on the show. The Dayton Air Show is going to be back and in full swing. They're going to be doing the air show as normal this year. We have another update regarding the air show. This upcoming Centerpoint Energy Dayton Air Show continues to take shape. Air show officials announced that the local show had been selected by the U.S. Navy for an FA-18 Super Hornet Legacy flight for the summer show on July 10th and 11th at Dayton International Airport. The FA-18 Super Hornet is the Navy's premier strike fighter. Powered by two General Electric turbofan afterburning engines, the supersonic Hornet has a top speed of Mach 1.8, or 1,190 miles per hour. The Hornet will be paired with the iconic World War II and Korean-era Corsair. Spectators will witness history in the air as the Hornet will fly in formation with the famed Corsair Warbird, a matchup called the Legacy Flight. The show said in a release on Tuesday. Dayton's Legacy Super Hornet will be flown by Lieutenant Griffin Pushpop Stangl from Strike Fighter Squadron VFA 122, Naval Air Station Lemoore, California. Lieutenant Joseph John Boy Kirksey will also fly an F-18. So, got some interesting stuff there to look forward to this air show. All right, we're going to go ahead. If you want to read more local news, you could check out your local news sources. You could also check out Google News to get an aggregation of local news from various different sources. We're going to move now on to global and national news brought to you by Cheddar News Need to Know. Sky watchers and early risers got a glimpse of this year's Ring of Fire eclipse at sunrise this morning along the eastern seaboard. The moon is at its furthest point in its orbit right now and is only partially blocking the sun as it passes by, thus giving eclipse its nickname. I do want to mention, so those of us here in Ohio, unfortunately, only got a little taste of the solar eclipse. The solar eclipse was mainly visible in the northeastern part of the United States and especially visible, in Canada. So it was an interesting phenomenon there. But unfortunately, because of how early the eclipse happened, those of us in Ohio only got a small taste of the eclipse, and states west of us weren't able to see the eclipse at all, unfortunately, because the sun in those areas have not broken the horizon yet. From the Associated Press, President Biden opened his first overseas trip since taking office by telling the world the United States is back. Biden is setting his sights on competition with China and ending the pandemic, not only in the U.S., but worldwide. His first stop Wednesday was a visit with U.S. troops and their families at Royal Air Force Mildenhall in Suffolk, England. We're going to make it clear that the United States is back and democracies are standing together to tackle the toughest challenges and issues that matter the most for our future, he said. And speaking of COVID-19, here are the latest news clips regarding COVID-19. From the New York Times, the White House has reached an agreement with pharma companies Pfizer and BioNTech to provide 500 million vaccines to around 100 countries over the coming year. President Biden is set to formally announce the plan today. 200 million doses are expected to be distributed this year and the other 300 million in 2022. The Delta variant is continuing to spread, according to The Hill. The highly contagious Delta variant continues to be an issue as it seems to be responsible for a small fraction of new cases in the US and UK. Former FDA Director Scott Gottlieb said he believes the variant could be a threat this fall, but that people who are fully vaccinated or are planning on receiving 2 doses should be protected against it. So as we've been seeing these variants of COVID-19 pop up and, news breaking out of the variants being more contagious and possibly more deadly, we have not yet seen a variant that is resistant to the vaccine. Thankfully, knock on wood. That's not to say that it's not going to happen, though. And that's why I believe personally, and my beliefs do not reflect the views and opinions of WWSU Radio, Wright State University, nor their entities. I believe that the COVID-19 vaccine is going to become an annual thing just like the flu vaccine. Because as we've seen during this pandemic, the SARS-CoV-2 virus has mutated. And it shows that it is capable of mutating, and quite fast, to be honest, just like the influenza virus. So my guess is that we're going to need to get an annual vaccine, just like the flu shot for COVID, that protects against the expected strands of that year. From Reuters, The International Olympic Committee says that over 80% of Tokyo-bound athletes have been vaccinated, and the IOC is pushing for the rest to get their jabs. Foreign visitors, minus the athletes and sports media, are still forbidden from attending the games, unfortunately. The latest update from the Keystone Pipeline, according to BuzzFeed News, plans to build the controversial Keystone XL pipeline have officially been shut down. TC Energy Corporation announced it had terminated the project after a comprehensive review of its options. The pipeline was first proposed in 2008 to transport oil sands into the U.S. from Alberta, Canada. Activists and indigenous groups protested the pipeline, and the Biden administration revoked the project's permit by executive order a few months ago. From NBC News, El Chapo's wife is pleading guilty. The wife of notorious drug lord Joaquin El Chapo Guzman is set to plead guilty for helping him run his Mexican cartel. Emma Ispuro was arrested earlier this year and slapped with federal charges. She's accused of helping El Chapo move tons of cocaine, meth, heroin, and marijuana across the border and acting as a messenger and go-between while he was on the run and then imprisoned in Mexico. From Politico, Biden has rescinded former President Donald Trump's executive order to ban Chinese-owned social media app TikTok. The current president has introduced a set of guidelines to evaluate whether transactions involving apps tied to foreign adversaries would threaten Americans' data. TikTok had previously sued to block Trump's executive order, so the app was never removed from the app stores. The latest update from stocks, according to Cheddar, as broader indexes slide lower at Wednesday's close, some of the internet's favorite meme stocks saw volatility, if I could say that word correctly. AMC, Wendy's, and Clover Health all sank double-digit percentage points, while GameStop announced it made 2 new hires in its C-suite. GameStop shares fell 3% after closing. From CNET, Elon Musk's tunnel beneath the streets of Las Vegas is finally transporting customers. The Boring Company opened an underground loop beneath the Las Vegas Convention Center this week. The 1.7-mile loop transports passengers across the length of the complex in 2 minutes. Passengers are only able to ride in a Tesla, of course, if they're attending an event at the convention center. And now the latest with the French Open. Novak Djokovic and Rafael Nadal will face off in the final round, their 58th matchup against one another. Djokovic celebrated his victory in an empty court after Parisian spectators were sent home before the 11 p.m. curfew. And that's according to The Guardian. From women's side, according to Eurosport, 17-year-old Coco Gauff was eliminated from the tournament yesterday. It was Gauff's first quarterfinal, and she was the youngest American player to reach a major quarterfinal round since Venus Williams in 1997. The commentator said she seemed tense and nervous. Gauff was penalized by the umpire for smashing her racket. Ooh. All right. National Geographic is officially recognizing the Southern Ocean as the world's 5th ocean. The body of water encircles Antarctica, and geographers have concluded it was enough unique characteristics to deserve its own name. Since National Geographic began making world maps in 1915, it had only recognized the Atlantic, Pacific, Indian, and Arctic Oceans. All right. That concludes the current events for your edition of Wright Morning Show. We are going to get into Wright State news and weather when we come back from our break. You are listening to the Wright Morning Show on WWSU 106.9 FM. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes.
To the Right Morning Show on WWSU 106.9 FM.
Welcome back to the Right Morning Show on WWSU 106.9 FM. Joined now through Discord is Laughing Chipmunk. Good morning, Laughing Chipmunk, and how are you doing?
I'm fine. I was able to get up early today.
Nice. Didn't you? Yeah, you had cat getting spayed today, didn't you?
Yeah. Our stray that we were taking care of, the one that had the kittens. Yeah, she's over at the vet hospital getting spayed this morning. So we're letting the kittens run around the house so they won't get lonely. Because I think
Alrighty.
they're missing their mommy already.
Yeah, that's cute.
I know.
All right, we're going to get now into our weather forecast here. The current weather provided by tomorrow.io at Wright State University is mostly clear with a temperature of 72 degrees. The wind is coming from the east at 5 miles per hour. The relative humidity is pretty muggy out there right now, 89%. The dew point is 68 degrees. The visibility is 8 miles, and the air quality is good. There is a special weather statement in effect according to FEMA. Let me pull that up real quick, see if I could get it up on my screen here. Areas across the northern Whitewater and northern Miami valleys and portions of west central Ohio will see low clouds and fog slow to mix out this morning. Some reports of near zero visibility have been noted, and these dense patches could linger through about 10 this morning. Be aware of adverse driving conditions due to rapidly changing visibilities, and please drive accordingly. Your hyper-local forecast for the next 12 hours shows that it's going to be mostly clear to partly cloudy up until 11:30 this morning, and then the clouds are going to start rolling with a chance of rain as well later in the day. So the temperature is going to hang around the low 70s until 11 a.m., and that's going to get into the upper 70s. It's going to peak at about 80 at about 4 p.m. today and then start cooling off after that. Your extended weather forecast brought to you by the National Weather Service at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base is the following. Today's forecast calls for a slight chance of thunderstorms in the morning, and then that chance increases as we get into the afternoon and evening hours. The high temperature will be in the low 80s. Tonight, showers are likely in the evening with that chance tapering off a little bit overnight, but there will still be a slight chance of thunderstorms overnight. Low in the upper 60s. Friday, a chance of thunderstorms in the morning, and then that chance increasing as we get into the afternoon and evening hours with a high in the mid-80s. Friday night, a chance of showers in the evening, tapering off to partly cloudy skies overnight with a low in the mid-60s. Saturday, a slight chance of showers in the morning with a slight chance of thunderstorms developing in the afternoon, high in the upper 80s. Saturday night, a slight chance of thunderstorms, low in the upper 60s. And then finally, the rain is going to go away on Sunday, and we're going to have sunny skies on Sunday. How appropriate. Sunday. It's going to be sunny. High in the mid-60s. Sunday night, it will be clear with a low in the lower 60s. Did I say 60s? I meant it's going to be high in the mid-80s, not 60s. And then low around 60 for Sunday night. Monday, sunny, high in the mid-80s. And then finally, Monday night, mostly clear with a low around 60. So that is your weather forecast. Here's the latest announcements from your Wings Express. And I had mentioned this before, and I'll mention again. There's a drinking water warning in effect for Wright State University's campus. Do not use any of the water on campus for any purpose. This also includes the Hamilton Hall dorms, but it does not include any other campus housing. There has been a contamination of water in the Biological Sciences 1 and 2 buildings, likely stemming from maintenance work on the HVAC systems. They cannot rule out that the contamination has spread throughout the water system, so they're advising everybody to not use campus water. This warning is still in effect as of today, as far as I know. So do not use campus water. If you need water, use bottled water, and you can get bottled water at customer care in 065 Allen Hall if you need any water. If you want more information about this incident, you can call you could call physical plant at the extension 4444 or the phone number 937-775-4444. So stay safe and don't drink the water. Master of Public Health virtual open houses. The next one will be June 22nd, which will be epidemiology. And that's pretty much it in terms of events that are happening here on campus, events and announcements. Not much going on, to be honest. So now we're going to go ahead and get into some news, Wright State news specifically, other than, of course, the drinking water hazard. We're going to start with the Guardian Media Group. The Campus Recreation Center is introducing 2 new programs aimed at teaching confidence in weightlifting. And this article was written by Jamie Naylor. Wright State Campus Recreation introduced 2 new programs, Women on Weights and Learn to Lift, to their health and wellness class schedule. In an effort to gain membership and involvement, Campus Recreation introduced new health and wellness programs. These programs aimed at health awareness, gym confidence, and body positivity are welcome to all fitness levels but are encouraged for new attendees. I want to break any fears that people have with the gym. I want to get more people involved in the gym, and I want to help people be healthier, Cara Dombrock, Program Director for Wright State Campus Recreation, said. Led by personal trainer and Wright State student Allison Whittaker, Women on Weights is an informational weightlifting and fitness program for all women. According to Don Brock and Whittaker, the program designed to create a safe space for women to work out, and it also works on debunking the myths of the fitness industry and building community. We want to provide a safe place for women to feel comfortable and gain confidence in their ability to do this on their own, Whittaker wrote. We want to provide an uplifting environment where women will come together to help each other learn and improve. Now for Learn to Lift. Blake Martin, personal trainer and Wright State student, leads Learn to Lift, a program aimed at teaching gym novices how to use exercise equipment safely and effectively. Learn to Lift shares the goals of teaching confidence and easing gym fears. My goals are just to get the gym back to where it was before COVID-19, when there's a lot of people and where people are not afraid to come in because they think they will be judged. It's just a good environment to help keep people safe, Martin said. Each week, a group of 10 people sign up for the L2L program and attend sessions on Mondays and Wednesdays. Both lift programs will start today and June 14th. Both programs are free to Wright State students, faculty, and staff. Per the COVID-19 policy, those who are fully vaccinated will not have to wear a mask while in gym spaces, but there will still be limited spots available for the programs. All right, let's move on to the Wright State newsroom now. There's an article about future students can learn why it's a great time to be a Raider at Wright State's open house. So, future students and their families can learn more about Wright State University, explore the majors and programs offered, and tour campuses during the Raider Open House on Friday, June 18th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. in the Wright State University Nutter Center. Those who attend Raider Open House will learn why it's a great time to be a Raider. The event gives future undergraduate students, including transfer students and their families, an opportunity to connect with faculty, staff, and students from departments and programs across the university. Another open house is planned for Friday, July 23rd. Registration for either event is required. You could go to wright.edu/Raider Open House. All guests must register for a designated visit date and time to allow for safe physical distancing. Staggered registration time slots are first come, first served and are available between 9 a.m. to noon. Each student may bring 2 guests. Raider Open House gives students a glimpse of all that Wright State has to offer. Future Raiders can learn about Wright State's 140 academic programs, financial aid, on-campus housing, the University Honors Program, and more. Wright State admissions staff will provide details on how participants can start their application to Wright State and pay for college. Participants can also learn about the Wright Tuition Guarantee Program that enables students and families to more confidently plan their finances, and it provides an incentive for graduating on time. The Wright Tuition Guarantee Program locks in the same annual cost of tuition, housing, and dining over a 4-year college career for newly admitted degree-seeking undergraduate students who are Ohio residents. Future students can tour campus and check out campus housing throughout the day. For more information, you can contact the Office of Admissions at 937-775-5700 or admissions@wright.edu. Wright State also offers physically distanced in-person daily tours of campus. Available times are listed on the calendar of events. Click on the time slot you are interested in and complete the registration form. Each student may bring up to 2 guests. You can also take a virtual tour of the campus by going to wright.edu/virtual. Summer camps are returning to Wright State. Young campers have returned to Wright State University's Dayton campus this summer. A year after Wright State's summer enrichment program had to offer online camps because of the pandemic, the annual Discovery and Camp Odyssey are once again offering in-person activities. It brought new life to campus, said Sheila Nargang, Associate Director of Event Services and Youth Programs at Wright State. If you're lucky enough to be on campus for a while to see some semblance of normalcy while having our campers back for the summer, this has been great. The campers and their parents are also excited to be back. I think children are ready to just get out and play and enjoy each other's company again, Nargang said. Offered by Wright State's pre-college programs, the summer enrichment courses are designed to encourage children's creativity and enthusiasm for learning. Teachers and professionals from the Miami Valley provide educational and challenging learning environments that encourage creativity and critical thinking. Discovery is designed for children entering kindergarten through 6th grade, and Camp Odyssey is open for children entering grades 7 through 9. Topics include science, nature, history, art, filmmaking, astronomy, geography, computing and coding, archaeology, reading, and more. Camps open June 1st and run weekly through July 30th. The fee for each weekly session is $140. Pre-college programs implemented a plan to safely host children on campus this summer, Nargang said. Safety procedures are similar to what most area schools have put in place. Campers and staff must wear masks indoors and practice social distancing. Students must stay with their class and cannot commingle with students from other classes. Staff must perform self-health assessments before traveling to campus every morning. If pre-college programs are notified that a student has been diagnosed with COVID-19, parents or guardians of classmates will be notified by email and phone. CDC guidelines for quarantine will be enforced, and the number of camps to children have been reduced. 7 camps are offered each week compared with 13 in previous years, with a maximum of 15 students per session. As of early June, Nargang said 750 students had registered for a camp, about 80% of the program's capacity. We're happy to be back, she said, and we look forward to the rest of summer with our students and building those relationships with the community again. Although thrilled to offer in-person camps once again, Nargang said pre-college programs may introduce additional programming based on staff's experience with last summer's virtual campus. This could include offering online courses to give more children opportunities to participate. And see, kind of on that note there, I think if one thing COVID has taught all of us is the importance of online and virtual opportunities. So even when we come out of the pandemic, I'm sure a lot of places are going to continue doing stuff on a hybrid model, which basically means some people are going to be in person and some people are going to be online. Because if one thing we have learned from COVID 19 is that when we offer services online, we reach more people. Because there's a lot of people who unfortunately can't attend in person for different things for whatever reason. Maybe they don't live in the local area, or maybe they have transportation challenges. Maybe they are disabled and can't drive or something like that. And these online opportunities allow them to be able to participate despite those challenges. So I think that's one thing we've learned from the COVID-19 pandemic is the versatility of online services and courses and sessions and things like that. What do you say, Laffy Chipmunk, on that?
Oh, I mean, I agree with you. The online thing is a blessing to a lot of people, actually.
Hmm.
Just like you said, people that are unable to get out and or they don't have transportation, stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, the online thing really comes in handy for those people.
Yeah.
Um, it's really come in handy during the pandemic, because a lot of people, including me, are having their groceries delivered instead of, going out and, to the stores. And it's, I mean, I could still go out to the store if I really wanted to, but right now I'm just, really getting real lazy, you know? So it's like, I'd rather just have somebody shop for me and bring it over to the house.
And
But
another nice thing about grocery delivery is something that happened recently. I wasn't feeling good. Yes, was it yesterday? No, it was 2 days ago. Because
yeah,
I was having side effects from the vaccine, so I wasn't well enough to get out and get what I needed to feel better. And so what you could do is you could order groceries for somebody else and have it delivered to their house. So it's really handy.
that's exactly what I did with you.
Hmm.
I had the Kroger close by your place deliver some items to you, and so that worked out fine.
Yeah, so especially like if you have elders that you take care of and that can't get out, and they can't use technology or anything like that.
Mm,
You can order groceries for your elderly and have it delivered to their home. So there's a lot of
yeah.
good uses for services like that.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So what other things have you done, Laughing Chipmunk, to kind of pull through the COVID pandemic?
Um, I haven't really done anything different except stay home a little bit more, and like I said, I get my stuff delivered. Not just groceries, but other things. It's like I like to shop on eBay and I like to do Amazon and just buy stuff for the house or whatever. And, um, I have it delivered, of course. And,
Yeah.
um, I'm just, I'm taking precautions. I'm being careful, but I'm not going overboard with anything. I'm just living my life like I did before the pandemic. Pandemic.
Pandemic. Nice.
I don't know why it always comes out like that. Pandemic.
Well, I mean, it is a
Jimmy.
pandemic. Like, damn it, pandemic. When are you going to be gone?
Yeah, really. Exactly. It's like, oh my gosh, let's get this over with. Just go away.
We don't need your virus.
We don't need no stinking virus.
But on the note of not going overboard, I think one of the challenges with, online shopping is it's tempting to go overboard because of how convenient it is. Like it's tempting to buy more than what you actually need or spend more than what you can afford on online
Oh,
shopping.
true. And um even I still have to watch our spending, even though Rich has a pretty darn good job. um I still want to, watch our budget, watch the spending. um I mean, yeah, we do splurge. We do, once in a while we buy things that we want and, instead of need.
Mhm.
But, we only do that, once in a blue moon. Um, like it kind of like as a treat,
Mhm.
But yeah, for the most part, we buy things that we actually need, like groceries, we need those. If we need something for the house, like as far as, like tools or, anything like that to make any improvements to the house or to the property, yeah, we go ahead and we get that. Um, but yeah, I'm just like my mother, your grandma, I'm like
Mhm.
pinching pennies all the time. Always watching the spending. But I mean it's fun. It's fun to, if you don't overdo it, it's fun.
Yeah, definitely. All right. So let's get into a little bit of a free for the remaining 5 minutes. Let's see what kind of topics we could talk about here. How to get over an ex that you still love. Ooh, now this could be an interesting topic. Um, so Laughing Chipmunk, what do you do to get over an ex?
Well, let's see. I'm definitely over and everybody that's ever been in my life.
Well, thank you very much. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I mean, I'm talking ex. Oh, jeez.
you said everybody in your life, and I'm
Oh, I
being a
mean,
smart aleck.
as far as exes, and but anyway, well, I mean, as far as your dad goes, I mean, I'm over him actually, naturally. Um, but I do still care about him as a person, I mean, he is your dad. So, I do care about him as a human being. Um, but yeah, everybody else that I've ever had even the least little bit of history with, it's like, oh yeah, they're definitely out of the picture. It's like, some of them have even passed away. It's like, well, sorry about that, but that's life.
Yeah.
Um, I don't wish death on anybody, except for
It's
the
like,
real monsters of the world.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the people that I knew, and had a little bit of history with, I mean, they were nice people. They were, they weren't, evil or not like that. It's just the special friendships just never worked out. And it was like time to move on. And it's like, oh yeah, I definitely I'm over, all those people. Because it's like, once I met Rich and started, a relationship with him, it's like, okay, that was my main focus. That was that was the end of the line, that was it. So it's like, yep, just Rich and that's it.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm happy where I'm at. I'm happy, who I'm with. Um, I know I'm happy for your dad because he's happy where he's at and happy with who he's with. So I'm happy for him. You know, it's like, you know, that's great. I'm glad he has somebody. And so yeah, just yeah, that's all I can say.
Yeah, that's fine.
I
Like
moved on and I'm happy.
for me, in terms of moving on from exes and former relationships, it really depends on the relationship.
Mhm.
There's one or two relationships where I'm completely fine with it having ended, and I have no bitter or negative emotions about it. And for those relationships, um, I don't really need to do anything to move on. But then there's other relationships where I have to get rid of anything that reminds me of them, whether it would be, pictures or gifts or things like that or
Yeah.
messages, etc. It
Mhm.
just depends on the relationship.
Yeah.
All right,
Cuz I mean,
yeah, go ahead.
oh, oh, I was going to say real quick, sometimes um you need to, like get rid of um like the physical objects in order to move on, cuz it's like you just you just don't want those in the way. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's one relationship where, I have a lot of happy moments, and so I can hold on to those things and not feel, remorse or anything like that because,
Mhm.
it's moments that I cherish. Then there's, other relationships where if I were to look at that and I'll be like, "Man, I wish that would have worked out even though it didn't." And those kinds of things, you got to get rid of those. You don't need those
Yeah.
reminders because, that's the past. This is now. And you're on to a new chapter in your story.
Right. Yeah.
Stop reading chapter 2 when you're on chapter 5.
Yeah. Yeah. Like Harmony says, don't stay stuck in the past. Move on, you live in the present, move on to the future.
hmm All right. We're going to go ahead and take a break. And while we come back, it will be time for your daily dose of inspiration. So stick around. You're listening to the Rat Morning Show on WWSU 106.9 FM.
The average time a resume spends on an HR manager's desk is 7 seconds, and most of them are tossed aside. Now imagine if one of those resumes
And we're back to the Right Morning Show on WWSU 106.9 FM.
Welcome back to the Right Morning Show on WWSU 106.9 FM for hour number 2. It is time for your daily inspiration. Today's daily inspiration is going to be kind of triggering, so I want to give out a content warning for those of you who are listening that we are going to be talking about sexual assault and harassment in today's daily inspiration. If these topics are going to be very uncomfortable for you, I would suggest tuning out until 10:30 to another radio station or something like that. And I would also recommend that if you do listen in to this topic and you find yourself experiencing some discomfort or symptoms, be sure to seek some, support or professional help. There's a lot of resources online. There's also the Health and Wellness Center here at Wright State University that you can contact if you need assistance. With that being said, we're going to get into our daily inspiration. This comes from tinybuddha.com, written by Sandy Woznicki. How I developed self-worth after being sexually harassed and fired. Here's a quote. Here's an unknown quote. Your value doesn't decrease based on someone's inability to see your worth. I'm going to say that again. Your value does not decrease on someone's inability to see your worth. In my early 20s, I was a food and beverage manager at a nice hotel in Portland, Maine. About a month after I started working there, they hired our department director, a man twice my age whom I would report to. At the end of his first week, we went out for a get-to-know-each-other drink at a loud and busy bar. As we drank and chatted, he was physically very close to me. I told myself it was because of the noise. His knees were against mine as we chatted facing each other on bar stools. It made me uncomfortable, but I didn't do anything about it. He put his hand on my thigh as we talked, and I pretended it didn't bother me. He leaned in very close to my face and ear as he talked about himself and told me how attractive I was. He led me through doorways with his hand gently on the small of my back. There was more of this over the next few months, more of him stepping on and just over that invisible line, more of me acting as though I was okay with it and convincing myself that I was. A few months after that night, he and I were in a position to fire a male employee who had several complaints against him for not doing his work. The morning before the firing, Human Resources pulled me into their office to tell me that this employee had lodged a complaint about my boss and me. He had said that he knew we were going to fire him and he believed it was because my boss and I were having an affair. His proof was that he saw us at the bar that Friday night and saw us kissing. There was even a line cook who backed up the story. A few days later, both of these employees admitted that they did not exactly see us kissing. They just saw us very close together and looked intimate. HR dropped the complaint, but no longer felt comfortable with firing this employee, so he stayed on. A few weeks later, after a busy event that went poorly due to being understaffed, I was taken into the CEO's office and I was fired. The male employee continued working there. My male boss continued working there. The male employee was promoted to take my now vacant position. My male boss was promoted to work at a larger resort at a tropical destination. These two events, being accused of having an affair with my married older boss and subsequently being fired for an event that I was not even in charge of staffing, were the two lowest points of my professional career. I honestly rarely think back to this time in my life, but I also recently realized that I never talk about this experience because of my embarrassment that I let this happen without objection. Let's talk about what this story is really about. I didn't think that my boss would hurt me. I wasn't even worried that I would lose my job if I pushed back. I was afraid that if I acted like someone who is bothered by his comments, I would be seen as a lame, no fun, boring, stuck-up prude. I subsequently subconsciously believed that my worthiness as a person was determined by people who were cooler than me, more successful than me, smarter than me, or more liked than me. I believe that had I told my boss no, he would have listened. I'd gotten to know him over several months, and while he was egotistical, dim-witted, and selfish, I think he would have respected my boundaries had I set them. I just never did. There are a lot of layers to the story and far too many to cover in one post, but the reason for writing this today is to share what I was so ashamed of. I was ashamed that young 20-something me was so insecure and so afraid of rejection that her people-pleasing led to allow this man to touch her and act inappropriately. She was so afraid that if she set a boundary and said no, she would be seen as too emotional, weak, and a complainer. She would become less than. I'll restate that there are a lot of layers to this, from the patriarchal system at this business and society as a whole, to the abuse of men in power, to mixed messages at high schools where girls were not allowed to wear certain clothes because the boys would get distracted, to a lack of examples through the 90s and early 2000s of what it looks like for a young woman to stand up for herself in a situation like this and far beyond. But the part of the story I want to focus on right now is my insecurity. This is the part of the story that I had the most shame and regret about because this was not an isolated incident for me. People pleasing was a huge problem for me in several areas of my life for many years. It's something that held me back from so much. I didn't have a long relationship that I dreamt of ending for fear that I would disappoint our families. I'm sorry, I didn't leave a long relationship. I read that wrong. I let people walk all over me, interrupt me while I spoke, and tell me what I should think. In my late 20s, I remember being home alone again, crying that I had no one who would want to spend time with me or go somewhere with me, feeling sad and lonely, when in reality I was just too scared and embarrassed to pick up the phone and ask for fear of rejection. I wasted so many years and felt a lot of pain, and a whole lot of nothing happened as I was stuck feeling worthless, unlikable, and unknowing how to please my way out of it. I spent years numbing how uncomfortable my insecurity made me feel by smoking a lot of marijuana. I avoided what I came to realize were my triggers by staying home or finding excuses to leave early if I did go out. I blamed everyone else for how they made me feel. I compared myself to everyone and constantly fell short. Until eventually, I realized the cause for all this pain and discomfort was believing that my worth was based on what other people thought of me. If I could go back in time to give myself one thing, it would be the emotional toolbox that I've collected over the years so that I could stop living to please other people, because I know now that I am inherently worthy. By my 30s, I found myself on a journey to lift the veil of insecurity that hid me from my real self. This wall I'd inadvertently built to protect myself was keeping me from seeing who I was beneath my fear and anxiety. Once I found the courage to start tearing down that wall and opening myself to the vulnerability necessary to truly connect with the real me, I was able to discern between who I am and what I do. I learned to stop judging myself. I learned my true value, and I liked what I saw. I came to realize that it's hard to feel worthy when you don't really like yourself. It's even harder to genuinely like yourself if you don't truly know yourself. Figuring out my core values was a crucial part of the puzzle. Core values are the beliefs, principles, ideals, and traits that are most important to you. They represent what you stand for, what you're committed to, and how you want to operate in the world. Knowing your core values is like having a brighter flashlight to get through the woods at night. It shines a light on the path ahead, a path that aligns with your true self, so that you could show up in the world and to challenging situations as the person you want to be. It helps you decide in any given scenario if you want to be funny or compassionate, direct or easygoing, decisive or open minded. And these aren't easy decisions to make, but knowing how you want to be in this world helps you make the decisions that best align with your authentic self. When you truly know yourself and act intentionally and authentically in tune with your values, a magical thing happens. You connect with your own internal and inherent worthiness. For me, I come to realize that I am a compassionate, kind, courageous, funny, well balanced woman, constantly in pursuit of purposeful growth. And I like that person. She's cool. I'd hang out with her. More importantly, I believe she is a good person deserving of respect, which means I don't need to accept situations that cross my boundaries. I have a right to speak up when something makes me uncomfortable. So, how do you want to be? Which of your principles and qualities matter most to you? And what would you do or change if you chose to let these principles and qualities guide you? Shame breeds in the darkness. We don't normally speak up about the things that we feel embarrassed about, and that leads to us feeling isolated and alone with how we feel. Whether it's reading stories online, talking with friends, joining a support group, going to therapy, or working with a coach, share and listen. A vital component of self compassion is learning to connect over our shared experiences. And it takes self compassion to respect and believe in our own self worth, especially when confronted with our inner critic. By sharing my feelings of insecurity, I learned that a beautiful friend of mine also felt guilty. I thought, wow, if someone that gorgeous could think of herself as anything less than, my thinking might be wrong too. I found out that even talented celebrities, from Lady Gaga to Ariana Huffington to Maya Angelou, have all felt insecure about their abilities. That somehow gave me permission to feel the way that I did, which was the first step in letting it go. Who can you connect with? If you're not sure or you aren't at a place yet in your journey to feel comfortable doing that, perhaps start by reading stories online. Shameless plug, chicken soup for the soul. Alas, I am only human, therefore I still fall victim to moments of insecurity and feel tempted to let other people dictate my worth. Knowing that purposeful growth is important to me, I know that the work continues and I'm willing to do it. So I coach myself through these challenging times when I say something stupid and worry about being judged, or I come across someone who is similar to me but more successful and fear that means I'm not good enough. I'll ask myself questions as a way of stepping out of self-judgment mode and into an open and curious mindset. These are questions like, if my good friend was expecting this, how would I motivate her? Do I do the best I could with what I had? If the universe gave me this experience for a reason, what lesson am I supposed to be learning so that I can turn this into a meaningful experience? What uncomfortable thing am I avoiding? Am I willing to be uncomfortable in order to go after what I want? Or I'll break out the motivational phrases that reminded me of my capabilities or worthiness, like I can do hard things. My worthiness is not determined by other people's opinions. This is just one moment in time and it will pass. Even though it is difficult, I am willing to do it. I forgive myself for making a mistake. I've learned from it and I will do better next time. Tools like these are simple but priceless. They give me my life. And I could say now without hesitation, I like myself, I love myself, I love my life, I'm worthy as hell, and I'm my own best friend. That's how I want to live my life. Because of this, I have the confidence to speak my truth with courage, and I have the confidence to live authentically and unapologetically myself. And the number one person I'm most concerned with pleasing is myself. And that article is written by Sandy Woznicki. So, Laughing Chipmunk, what do you think? And can you relate to that?
Yeah, in a way. I mean, I was not, I was never actually, like harassed or anything at any of my jobs. So, I never went through that. But I can relate to the, like the insecurities and, the lack of, faith and confidence, and stuff like that. I can relate to all that,
Mm-hmm.
definitely.
So,
But,
yeah. What do you do to
that,
overcome insecurity and things like that? Sorry, there's a a little bit of a delay here on Discord today.
well, let's see. First of all, I'll call my best friend Harmony, and she always gives me a boost. We give each other boosts,
Mm-hmm.
and if she's feeling down, then I'll try to boost her up again. And it's like, yeah, first thing I do is call my soul sister. you know, um, um, I mean, she's like the best, when it comes to support and everything. And of course, I've got you for support. I've
Mm-hmm.
got Rich for support. Um, so yeah, I mean, I do have a good support system, but I've gotten more confident since I've gotten older. Um, I'm not really confident with my body image right now because, of the weight I've gained over the years. But, I don't let it bother me too much. It's like, hey, if anybody doesn't like how I look, don't look at me, you know? So it's like, hey, I'm alive. I'm relatively healthy, not perfectly healthy, but, kind of. Um, I'm alive. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, it's like I said, if you're feeling insecure, you don't have any confidence, you know, find yourself a good support system, and it's never too late, even if you lack self-confidence, as a young adult, you can always gain it a little bit later. It's never too late.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to be self, you know, self-conscious and, feel that way the rest of your life. You don't need to do that.
That's true.
Just, yeah. But, yeah, like I said, I don't know what it's like to be sexually harassed, like in the workplace. I never had it happen. But, it's like, good for those, good for the females and the males too, because it happens to males. Um, it's good for the people to go out and find that support and gain that confidence and that self-esteem that they were lacking before,
Mm-hmm.
and boundaries, always set boundaries, enforce them. I don't care how young and naive you are, learn about boundaries. It's like if you're, you know, any guy, doesn't matter if it's your boss or whoever, you know, anybody, puts their hand on your thigh or does anything that you're uncomfortable with, tell them, hey, back off.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to tell them to back off. So, like I said, um, set those boundaries and enforce the boundaries. Even if you're scared, do it. You
Yeah.
know, don't let Don't let people walk all over you. Don't let people tell you what to do or how to do whatever. Be your own person, do your own thing, have your own mind.
Yeah, definitely.
You know what I'm saying.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, definitely. We're going to continue now on to a Chicken Soup for the Soul story. This one comes from the book I'm Speaking Now. Black Women Share Their Truth in 101 Stories of Love, Courage, and Hope. Here's a quote from Donna Brazil. Brazil. I'm not exactly sure how to say that last name there. If everyone likes you, it probably means that you aren't saying much. My office phone rang. I picked up the receiver and stated my last name. A soft voice on the other end said, "The assistant superintendent would like to see you." I tried to think of what I had done to get called to my boss's office. "Okay, coming," I said in a weary voice before disconnecting the call. I took a slow, steady stroll down the hallway, still wondering what I had done to merit this unusual invitation. The secretary ushered me into the room where I was surprised to find my boss's boss standing in the corner. My eyes widened and my heart sank. Oh God, what did I do? Their laughter reassured me that it was okay to breathe. My boss directed me to have a seat, and I did. Like a child in the principal's office, I waited for the man who held my fate to speak. Doc and I are having a discussion about Black Lives Matter, and we would like you to do a presentation on the subject for a group of stakeholders in the district. My eyes narrowed. I need more context. My boss's boss chimed in. I fear that the anger and animosity in the community surrounding George Floyd's death and this war all over social media with Black Lives Matter, Blues Lives Matter, and All Lives Matter is going to spill over into our institution. He paused, waiting for me to respond, but when I said nothing, he continued. I'm afraid of what might happen if we don't deal with this now and provide our employees tools to help navigate these times. As a white man, there is still much for me to learn, but I am willing. I still sat there with my eyes darting between him and my boss, trying to get a feel of the room, trying to gauge truth and intentions, and trying to determine if my organization was really ready for such a topic. I could think of 100 reasons why this was a bad idea, but I finally agreed to do the presentation. I was anxious, but I realized what had just occurred. My institution had just handed me, a melanated girl, the microphone. Melanated girl. I read that word wrong. I hurried to my office, created a new presentation, entitled it A Conversation About Human Race and Realities. In a subtle whisper, I asked myself, all right, girl, how are you going to present this to your white colleagues? Don't shut down and petition for your pink slip. And how are you going to present this so your brothers and sisters won't feel like you didn't do hard enough for the cause? Perplexed was an understatement. The day of the presentation, participants trickled in, and my nerves got the best of me. I kept drinking water, which only turned into sweat that bubbled up on my forehead like dew on a leaf at sunrise. I tried to calm myself, but anxiety was winning. I stood in the corner of the library, inhaling a deep breath and releasing tension in my shoulders like a boxer about to step in the ring. As my boss started the introduction, I turned to face the audience. My eyes scanned the room, trying to figure out who was excited, who was uncomfortable, and who was mad as a raging firestorm that this discussion was happening. I hardly heard what he said when he handed me the clicker, and I stepped to the center of the room to begin. And I followed protocol. I established a safe space, provided water for grounding exercises, and sprinkled in techniques for their comfort. We walked through slavery, supremacy, and Jim Crow before getting to present-day systemic racism. I was intentional, methodical. I wanted them to understand that folk didn't get to this bubbling rage and tension overnight. This thing had been brewing. Trayvon Martin, Sandra Bland, Philando Castile, Tamir Rice, Eric Garner, Walter Scott, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and George Floyd. Individual members in the room read their stories of tragedy aloud. Emotion welled up in my colleagues' eyes. Their necks flushed red from hurt or anger, it was hard to tell, and their voices cracked. When it was over, a friendly crowd surrounded me with thank yous and well dones, but even in the midst of this group vying for my attention, there was one white male who caught my attention. This was the same man who barely said a word during the entire 2-hour presentation. He sat in his chair with one leg tucked neatly under his thigh while the other leg swung freely, clad in Birkenstocks. He had a sour face the entire time, like the pout of a 3-year-old who couldn't get his way. When it was over, he grabbed his bag and all ran out of the door as if he had just been released from a hellish prison. The next day, I come through attendee evaluations. One comment jumped off the page. My wordless friend the day before had written this in the additional comment section of the survey. No one argued with the presenter, and if they would have, I'm not sure she would have responded. That comment didn't sit well with me because I engage in discourse on a regular basis in boardrooms with colleagues who view things differently than I, and I've always kept a level head. Nothing in my professional history indicates that I would have acted any different on this day. Until recently, I was the only black person on this team for almost 9 years. I carried the burden of being a representative for all of my people while in this higher office, a weight I'm sure any black woman who has ever been the only knows all too well. So I stared at the comment, trying to understand its origin, and as I peeled back the layers of the remark, I realized what it was. He was trying to classify me as an angry black woman. I chuckled at his audacity, filed it away as evidence that there's more work to be done, and readied myself for round 2. And that was written by Lexi Reel. And talking a little bit about this story, see, a lot of times when we bring up sensitive topics like Black Lives Matter and, racism and sexism in the workplace, a lot of times we don't know what work needs to be done until we have the conversation and see how people respond to it. And we could gauge from their responses how much inherent racism or sexism exists in the workplace. So, more definitely a lot of power to them for having this conversation and not letting things boil up or anything like that before having a conversation like that. So I applaud them for having a conversation like that. And this is something that I think a lot of organizations and businesses should do. They should have presentations on diversity and, current events, things that are happening that would affect the atmosphere of the work environment and the relationships between the colleagues and things like that. Things that definitely need addressed in the world because we do have a lot more work to be done. And referring back to our Tiny Buddha story from today, when we talked about the woman who is fired for being sexually harassed and things like that. There's still a lot of sexual harassment and other sexist stuff going on in the workplace that are not being addressed. And a lot of it has to do with, fear of how people are going to react to such presentations and things like that. And I'm here to tell you what other people think about the presentation is not your concern. Have that presentation, have that discussion. Yes, it's going to be uncomfortable. It needs to be uncomfortable because by being uncomfortable, it challenges people's ways of thinking and it helps open people's minds a little bit more. If everybody sits around in comfort, nothing's going to get changed. That's the way I see it. What do you think, Laughing Chipmunk?
I don't know. I was just listening.
Like, what are your thoughts on having, presentations on, social justice and things like that in the workforce?
I've never done one, but I wouldn't be nervous at all. I would just get up there, do my thing, and I'd be like pretty much okay if people liked it, fine. If they didn't, fine, whatever. Um, I would just be up there to, get my point across, um, say what needs to be said. Um, I wouldn't worry about, be nervous or anything about what other people were thinking, but that doesn't mean that I would dismiss their feelings or their opinions.
Hmm.
If they wanted to talk about the presentation, yeah, I would talk about it afterwards. If there's something they didn't understand, I try to explain it. That's what I would do. And I wouldn't like, just brush them off or anything. um I take into consideration, their feelings and their opinions, but, I would not let their opinions and everything, affect me and, my own personal opinions. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah,
I can't really explain it, but I'm hoping you understand what I'm trying to say.
kind of. Yeah, I do understand at least the core of what you're trying to say there.
Yeah.
We are running a little bit over time, so we're going to go ahead and take this moment to take our break. And when we come back, it's Thoughtful Thursday on WWSU 106.9 FM's The Right Morning Show. Today, we're going to be talking about an interesting debate, and the Guardian Media Group has an article about this. We're going to talk about if it would be justified for schools and institutions to require the COVID vaccination. So you stick around. You're listening to the Right Morning Show on WWSU 106.9 FM. Don't go anywhere.
This is a campus bulletin. And we're back to the Right Morning Show on WWSU 106.9 FM.
All right, it is Thoughtful Thursday on the Right Morning Show today. So we're going to be doing a little bit of a debate-like discussion. We don't have enough people to do an actual debate, so to speak. So this is just going to be more of a informal discussion. So the Wright State Guardian Media Group had released an article a couple of days. Let's see, it was released on June 8th. Can and should Wright State require proof of vaccination? Students and professionals weigh in. I believe we read this article a couple yesterday, maybe on the show. I'm going to read it again because we're going to talk a little bit more in depth about this topic today. And those of you who are listening, if you want to give your thoughts and opinions on this topic, we would love to hear from you. You can go to wwsu1069.org. That's wwsu1069.org. Click the green play button, and then in the new window on the left-hand menu, click Chat with DJ. And there you can leave your messages and your thoughts with us. You can also join our Discord server. So on our website, there's a button called Join Discord. Join our Discord server, leave a message there. Or you can call our request line at 937-775-5555. That's 937-775-5555. And the final way you can leave a message is through text message. Give a text message to my number, which is 937-490-9775. So that's 937-490-9775. With that being said, let's get into the discussion. So we're going to start with reading the article from the Guardian Media Group. This was written by Kaylee Rains. The Monday afternoon announcement that ceasing COVID-19 restrictions on Wright State University's campus is raising questions and concerns among some students. Some students are excited about the change in mask-wearing policies, while others are concerned that their peers may pretend they've been vaccinated to avoid wearing a mask if providing proof is not necessary. With the relaxed policies hinging on whether an individual is fully vaccinated or not, many are wondering whether or not the university will require proof of vaccination. I'm going to pause the article here for a second because I'm going to give you some insight into a personal observation that I have made with my recent trip to, Kroger, I believe it was? Yeah, it was Kroger. So this past Sunday, I stopped at Sugar Creek Kroger, and, nothing against Kroger because Kroger is still holding on to their, mask policies and things like that. So I am in no way, giving any shame to Kroger. I'm talking about the customers at Kroger, and I'm no way holding responsibility against Kroger themselves. So when I was in there, I noticed that roughly maybe 80 to 90% of people at Kroger were not wearing masks. Now, keep in mind, statistically speaking, on average, about, I think, 60% of Americans have had at least one dose of the vaccination, and I think 30 to 40% of Americans are fully vaccinated. So, in reality, there should only be about 30 to 40% of customers at Kroger not wearing a mask, yet that number is 80 to 90% from what I've observed. There are a lot of people not wearing a mask despite not being vaccinated. So I'm just going to inform you that, this article has some legitimate merit and legitimate concern there with regards to people pretending that they've been vaccinated and therefore not wearing a mask. If you haven't been vaccinated, do yourself a favor. Wear a mask. Can't say that enough. Not only are you going to be protecting yourself, but you're going to be protecting other people as well. There are a lot of people out there who are going around without a mask who have not been vaccinated. So protect yourself. Continuing on with the article. Deputy of Wright State's General Counsel Sean Coley, JD, shared with the Wright State Guardian that legislation does not currently exist preventing a university from requiring the COVID 19 vaccine. So I've heard some people say, oh, it's illegal to ask for a vaccination card. Not true. The COVID 19 vaccines are not approved under the regular FDA process, but only under an emergency use authorization. While most legal commentators agree that the EUA does not prevent employers or universities from making the vaccine mandatory, it is very likely that more institutions will require the vaccines once they have regular FDA approval, Coley said. Keep in mind, measles vaccines, chickenpox, tuberculosis, tetanus. A lot of these vaccines are required by some schools and employees. I don't think COVID's going to become an exception to that rule in the future. COVID's going to eventually become a required vaccine, considering how destructive and deadly and what's the word I'm looking for? Contagious this virus has been. If COVID-19 can cause a pandemic, which it has, I'm pretty sure it's going to be a required vaccine in the future. There are no law, continuing the article, no law keeps universities from requiring proof of a vaccination, according to Cully. The Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, HIPAA, only applies to medical records in the hands of a provider. Many colleges already require proof of vaccines, including COVID-19. In Ohio, one of the few public universities with COVID-19 vaccine requirements for the fall is Cleveland State University. However, Wright State does not have any current plans to require students to get the vaccine or to require students to furnish evidence of having been vaccinated, according to Coley. And again, I'm going to stress this. It is not illegal to require proof of vaccinations. People are going to be mad about it, sure, but it's not illegal. The only time it would become illegal is if you somehow get medical records from other people without consent. That's when it becomes illegal. But to require people to show their vaccination card, not illegal. So here are some perspectives of this, this knowledge. Here are some perspectives that have been shared with the Wright State Guardian Media Group. Junior Nathan Klarer is eager for the upcoming fall semester at Wright State. To him, life is finally starting to go back to normal. I always wear my mask, but now that everybody's getting vaccinated, I'm a lot more comfortable, especially outside. I don't mind the relaxed laws about businesses either because I feel like everything is finally going back to normal, or at least somewhat more normal, Klarer said. On the other hand, some students have reservations about the new policies and are questioning whether unvaccinated students will be honest and follow masking protocol. I'm fine with vaccinated people not needing to wear masks outside of campus. However, I think that the relaxed laws for students and businesses are kind of skeptical because anyone could just say they're vaccinated, just not to wear a mask. And that is from graduate student Sophie Dang. As far as stores and other businesses, I am not necessarily comfortable about them relaxing the rules. Until COVID has gone completely and almost everyone is vaccinated, I don't think they should remove the mask policies inside of buildings, undergraduate student Anastasia White had said. As someone who can't get the vaccine due to allergies, I feel fine knowing people who have been vaccinated can move to mask-free. I personally will stay wearing my mask due to my inability to get vaccinated, undergraduate student Devin Halley said. Next question. Would students be willing to show proof of vaccinations? I would personally be fine with Wright State asking students to provide proof of vaccine and to not wear a mask or return to campus, but I feel like a lot of other people would not be, Klarer said. White feels that providing proof of vaccine could potentially be unfair to unvaccinated students and those who cannot receive the vaccines for medical reasons. I have mixed feelings about that. In a way, it might be a good way to see who's been vaccinated, but it wouldn't be fair to others, White said. According to Dean of Students, Dr. Chris Taylor, Wright State is not currently planning to require students to show proof of a vaccination. And that is the article. So let's talk a little bit about this. First off, I'm going to bring up a little bit of a statistic here from Wright State University. In comparison to other colleges in the state of Ohio, Wright State University has done phenomenal with keeping COVID-19, um, y- from breaking out. As far as I'm aware, there have not been any notable breakouts of COVID-19 among the Wright State University community, and that is very impressive considering how large in attendance our school is. There have been other schools like University of Dayton and Ohio State University who have had COVID-19 breakouts, and um, particularly the UD one was pretty big. They've had thousands of students contract COVID-19, whereas if I'm recalling correctly, I think Wright State has only had maybe 100 or 200 of students and faculty report having COVID-19, and that is out of roughly 10,000 people who are in attendance at Wright State. So we've done a phenomenal job as a university to protect the student body and community. I personally am okay with Wright State not requiring proof of vaccination because of the fact that we've kept COVID 19 under control here at the university. If this was the University of Dayton, my opinions would be very different. My opinions, if I were at University of Dayton, would be that I think the school should require the COVID-19 vaccine, particularly because of how bad their outbreak was. But like I said, this isn't UD, this is Wright State, and we've done a phenomenal job. So I'm okay with the Wright State currently not requiring proof of vaccination. For other businesses, though, and things like that, that's a different story. I'm skeptical about that as well, personally. As I mentioned, my observations at Kroger, there were 80 to 90% of people who were not wearing masks, despite the statistics showing that only about 40% of Americans are fully vaccinated at this time, if that. So, realistically, there should only be 40% of people not wearing a mask at this time. And in terms of asking people for proof of vaccination, as I mentioned, it is not technically illegal to do that, despite what other people say. It is only illegal to somehow forge the medical records of other people against their consent. So you can require people to show their vaccination card. You can't physically try and get that information behind their backs without their consent. So that's the big difference between legal and illegal. So if I were to ask you to show me your vaccination card and you refuse to do so, and then I say, well, you can't enter my business because you won't show proof of vaccination, that's perfectly legal. But if I, as a business, want to search your medical history behind your back without you signing a medical release form to find out whether or not you got vaccinated, that is illegal. So that's the big difference between legality and illegality. And I think that's where the confusion has been recently in terms of this debate. Laughing Chipmunk, I want to turn over the mic to you now. What are your thoughts on this topic and, whether or not universities and businesses should require proof of vaccination?
Um, if they want to do that, that's their choosing. That's
Hmm.
their decision. Um, I mean, I'm not I'm not vaccinated yet. I mean, that'll be something I need to do in the future here. But until I get my doctor's okay, we got to find out if there's any underlying health issues that might the doctor might say, well, you can't get the vaccine because of this or that or this or that. But until I know for sure, I'm kind of holding off on that. But anyway, back to the businesses. Like I said, it's their choice. If they want to, you know, require proof of vaccination, that's up to them.
Hmm.
Um, since I'm not vaccinated yet, I don't have a problem wearing a mask. I've
Yeah.
worn a mask since the pandemic started.
I'm still
So
wearing
I
my mask because, I got my second vaccine on Monday, but, Monday hasn't been 14 days yet. So I'm still wearing my
right.
mask.
Yeah. I don't have a problem wearing a mask. I'm not wearing it for that long.
Hmm.
And, as soon as I'm out of the building and away from other people, I take the mask off.
Yeah.
But, if I'm going to be around people, I'll put it back on. I have absolutely no problem with that. It doesn't bother me. I'm not like some people and say, oh, I can't breathe in a mask. I'm going to get carbon dioxide poisoning and, all that BS. And it's like, no, it ain't going to happen.
I'm gonna I'm gonna
But,
turn the if you don't mind, I'm gonna cut you off here because we only got 3 minutes, and I want the general
oh, okay.
manager of WWSU, who's in the station right now. I want to get his thoughts on this topic. So, Shay, Neil, how are you doing this morning?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
No problem. So, the topic we're talking about is, what are your thoughts on, whether or not businesses and universities should be required to, or businesses and universities should require proof of the COVID vaccination?
Yeah, I think it should be like a lot of other things are. I mean, in today's society, I think it should be kind of open to uh, different situations and open to different, I guess, delegations from certain business owners. Where, like I think you both mentioned, I don't have a problem with a local business requiring proof of vaccination to enter the business without wearing a mask.
Hmm.
So I think I think it should be up to the policy of the business and the business owner. I don't think it would be smart to enforce one way or the other for every business because I think that kind of restricts what business owners can do and kind of that freedom that they have with their business.
Hmm.
So I think it should be kind of open to each individual situation and what each business owner wants to do. But much like you said, I don't have an issue. I still carry my mask around with me, even though I'm fully vaccinated, because if I'm ever with a client or with somebody that would, would feel more comfortable with me having it on, it's not that big of a deal. Like Laughing Chipmunk said, you only have it on for 5-10 minutes, so it's not that big of a deal
Hmm.
for me personally. So I think it should be open to the situation, but I don't really personally, I don't mind one way or the other.
And I think you weren't you had just entered when I was talking about it, but your Wright State University currently has no plans to require proof of vaccination, according to Dr. Chris Taylor. And my stance is I'm okay with that because Wright State University has been very good about keeping COVID-19 infection rates down.
Mm.
So I'm okay with them not requiring proof of vaccinations. I'm some semi comfortable with the fact that some people are going to not wear a mask despite not being vaccinated. I'm, you know, I don't like that, but I'm also at the position where, Wright State has done a pretty good job at keeping infection rates down. So it's not too much of a risk if somebody does that.
Right.
My opinion would have been different, though, if this was the University of Dayton, who has had thousands of students get infected by COVID 19. I think, if they were to require the, proof of vaccination, that would, good for them
Mm.
because, they've had a lot of infection rates over there. And
Right.
not only that, but they're not necessarily a commuter college like we are. So a lot of the students there stay in on-campus housing in close quarters and things like
Exactly.
that.
Exactly. And I think that's a benefit that Wright State really holds is that they don't have, a large population of the student body does commute here or stays in off-campus apartments and stuff like that. So I think Wright State, like you said, has done a really good job of limiting the spread, but it doesn't hurt that a large portion of the student body in the campus community isn't on campus all the time.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for coming on, Shay. We're going to take a quick recap of the current weather and weather forecast, and then we're going to head off for today's show. So currently it is mostly clear and 75 degrees. The wind is coming from the east at 5 miles per hour. The humidity is 78%. The dew point is 68 degrees. The visibility has improved. There was a little bit of fog this morning, but it has improved now. The forecast calls for partly cloudy skies up until noon, and then it's going to get cloudy. Rain is possible at 1:45 p.m., and throughout the day, there's a little bit of chance of rain here and there. Temperature is going to rise to the upper 70s at around 12 p.m., and it's going to hover around there. It may dip a little bit once the rain comes in. But otherwise, generally, it's going to stay in the upper 70s until about 7 p.m. and then start cooling off from there. Everybody, another reminder, there is a drinking water warning in effect for campus still. Do not use campus water for any purpose here at Wright State University, or if you're in the Hamilton Hall dorms as well. Do not use campus water for any purpose. There is bottled water available in 065 Allen Hall if you need bottled water. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to today's edition of the Wright Morning Show. We'll be back again tomorrow from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. for Free Talk Friday. We will see you again then. Thank you for making us a part of your morning. Be sure to tune in also later today for the Testa and Neil Keep It Real sports show from 1 to 3 p.m. Thank you, and we will see you again tomorrow.
You are now listening to